say you wanna get down. Girl, what you wanna do? Yeah, say you wanna get down. I know what you wanna do, baby. Say you wanna get down. What you wanna do? Yeah, you wanna get down. Let me tie it like this. How you gonna do when the band's don't wanna dance? By standing on the wall, get your back up off the wall and dance, yeah. How you gonna do when the band don't take a chance? Standing on the wall, yeah, get your back up off the wall. I heard all them people say, get down on it, baby, baby. Get down on it, get down, shine on, get down on it. Yeah, get down with the funky town, baby. Get down on it. Oh, yeah. I'm saying, people, what you wanna do? You got to get on that groove. Show 'em what you're working with now. Let me tell you like this, I say.
Brother Harrison.
Yes, world-renowned historian.
As I live and breathe. Do you want to talk about the last 40 minutes, or do you just want to block it out and pretend it never happened?
Let's pretend that headache never happened.
Okay. Yes. We're a couple of boomers, everybody.
Yes.
That's the TLDR version. Anyways, we're back here. Just want to make sure your audio is indeed coming through. Very happy about that. Still appears to be copacetic. Back here talking your books. Got a couple things to get to before we do that. Welcome back to WRH Live. Everybody got bad at this.
Yes, sir.
First of all, The Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
You posted a reaction video to it, and something about it stuck out to me a little bit.
Oh, what did?
Somebody.
It wasn't my messy background, was it?
What's that?
It wasn't my messy background that I have it. I just saw that it had been posted, and I was like, oh, I got to quickly record, and I don't have time to clean up my background, so...
Has Jordan Peterson taught you nothing? No.
I have no idea who that is, but okay.
Oh, he's some idiot professor who says clean your room and it'll fix all the problems in your life. But
okay.
In any case, no. What stuck out to me, and I swear to God, somebody on the internet must have made this point before, was this whole idea of where I think it's like Scar talking early in the trailer, and he's like, oh, I forget exactly how he puts it. He's just like, oh, it's some people's place to like eat well, and it's some people's place to starve.
Yeah.
And later, like, Mufasa's going off about like, oh, hey, it's the circle of life, and I'm just like, isn't that what like the rich have always said to the poor? It's like, we're supposed to be rich, and you jackals who are starving, you're the bad guys because you don't want to be starving.
I don't know about that. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about that, I guess. I mean, are you just saying that? I think Scar is just saying that is because he's power hungry, and he wants to get, and he just wants everything, and he's trying to get the hyenas to come in and help him out. Like, I'm taking this from the original animated series, and in that one, the hyenas were just purely scavengers. They just ate the lion's leftovers.
This, interestingly, is going to dovetail with your own work, sir.
Is it?
It is indeed. Because...
How so?
Well, they're scavengers. Like, that's what they do. Like, what are they... Why is that, like, evil? Right?
Scavenging?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it has to do with the fact that when you think of hunter, predator, you think of you think of a lion or wolf or what have you, bringing down an animal and consuming it right there when it's dead. Whereas the scavengers, they just get the leftovers, and occasionally they don't get there right after the lion or wolf or what have you is finished eating. So they're eating the rotten bits, like with the maggot riddled flesh, and that's disgusting. I mean, whereas a newly fresh kill with it still has the blood in it, like it's still disgusting eating raw meat, but we can understand eating something like fresh off the bone, whereas that thing's been lying in the sun for the better part of a week.
But
maybe
it's
that's
my point is, like, ethically, like, if that's their lot in life, like, what are they supposed to do? Starve? Like, they just shouldn't live?
Well, actually, world-renowned historians, there's no such thing as a pure hunter or a pure scavenger. Both lions and hyenas have been known to scavenge and hunt, and also steal one another's kills.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting, actually.
Actually, did you know that the bite force in a hyena's jaws is the most powerful bite force in the animal kingdom? It's like, if a lion bites you, like, let's say it bites you in the shoulder, you'll have a nasty scar, but
right.
you'll most likely keep your arm. Whereas a hyena bites you on the arm, you're losing the arm. They have been known to eat literally everything on the carcass, even the flippin' teeth.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah. Well,
but at the same time, it's like Mufasa is like at the top of the food chain. He's like, oh, don't worry. It's the circle of life. It's how things are supposed to be. It's like, well, that's easy for you to say. Like, you're at the top of the food chain. These poor guys, like, scrabbling around in the dirt. They're like, what about my food chain? Like, granted, I didn't see this film until I was, like, 25 years old, so I don't have that, like, nostalgia thing that people have with it. But, I don't know, the trailer just stuck out to me as, like, what's wrong with the little guy wanting to get his?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, maybe Mufasa says that because, well, he's the king, and I would assume I'm making this assumption off of like human nations. Like normally, when you have a king, they're like a king or a prince or a princess or queen, what have you. They're usually the most well-educated, and they are the most informed person in the nation, or at least you hope so, because they're the one ruling it. So maybe he has some greater knowledge that we mere peasants do not know.
All of this leads so wonderfully into your own work. Actually, I'm glad I brought this up.
Well, Mufasa was born to rule. He was born to be king, whereas Scar, he was not. He was just the spare, like the heir and the spare. Have you ever heard that?
I have indeed. Yeah, it's a common thing in ancient writings, I think.
Yeah. Common thing nowadays with like modern royalty, like with Will and Kate. Their first son, I can't remember his name.
Harry or Henry or something?
Yeah, I think actually one of my middle names, I should think.
Oh.
Yeah. So if they had just wanted an Aaron done, they just would have stopped at him. But no, they've had Princess Charlotte and number 3, I think. I haven't been keeping up to date with the royals. That's my mom's prerogative.
Well, they're still on your money, aren't they?
No. We have Canadian prime ministers around here.
Oh,
now,
gotcha.
Although that being said, we do have Queen Elizabeth II on our coins.
Isn't there's still some like relationship politically there?
Yeah, we are a dominion. So after the American Revolution, you bloody ungrateful colonials, you. Yeah,
I think the American Revolution was bullshit, and we'll get to that sometime. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, bloody Yankees. Anyway, okay, but this might let's not. All right, Harrison, let's not destroy Canadian American relations in this video.
Right.
All right, so your lot broke away from the British Empire and became your own country, whereas we in Canada we remained a colony of the British Empire. Right up until Confederation, and that was right after your lot had your big civil war. So technically, we had become a sovereign. At Confederation, all the different provinces of Canada came together, or at least most of them did. A few of them didn't become part of Canada until a couple of years afterwards. This is my best friend's area of expertise. He's big into Canadian history and law and Confederation about that. Right. But when we had confederated, we technically broke away from a British Empire, but we didn't. If that makes any sense to you, we were. Let me put it this way: we were an autonomous limb of the British Empire,
but still subject in some fashion.
Sorts of. Think of it like this way.
It's like by name only.
Think of it like this way.
Yeah.
So you have a tree, but then you have a cutting off that tree. You have a tree that grows out of that other tree, technically speaking, those trees are both the same trees, but they've since been separated.
Right.
And I'm probably butchering this all the heck. And my friend, once he watches this proper stream, because I'm going to end up sending it to him, he's probably going to be like, no, that's not how it goes at all, you ignorant. Stop talking about things you don't know any better. I'm sorry, terribly sorry. My best friend, whose name I'm not going to reply just for your privacy's sake. But
yeah, no doxing on the stream.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So there wasn't like a financial like interest still. There wasn't like a we command your foreign policy kind of thing. It was just like
no. We are a part of the Dominion.
It was just like, yeah, we're happily kind of under your umbrella, whereas the U.S. was just like, no, we're dumping your fucking tea in the port.
All because you didn't want to pay for the French and Indian Wars, you ungrateful colonials.
That's exactly what it was. That's precisely what it was. We didn't want to pay for a war that was our own defense. Now, granted, like the taxation without representation thing, that was valid. Not wanting to pay for the French and Indian War, that was not valid.
Are you sure? Because I thought you were represented in the parliaments.
No, you know what they called it?
What?
It was virtual representation. If this was a video, I would put that word right about there. It was, okay, so your demographics and your economic class of this district is this. Well, hey, we already have a district in Sussex that has those exact same demographics. So while you yourselves are not actually represented, you kind of already are, because they've got your same sort of, thing going on. We can debate the merits of that. Personally, I don't find a lot of merit in it. I think that was the colonists' one true gripe. The taxes, there was no freaking, they absolutely should have had to pay for that war. It was to defend them. Yeah.
It was for your benefit, not, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, we gave the Vietnamese a blueprint to beat us 200 years later, interestingly. But that's a whole other topic.
Guerrilla tactics and everything?
What's that?
With the guerrilla tactics?
Yeah, just the blueprint of asymmetric warfare, I guess, which...
Oh, well, speaking of warfare back in the day, you know how and Vietnam, you know how your lot say that that was the only war you ever truly lost? Well, you're forgetting about the War of 1812, my friend. Your lot tried to come up here and invade Canada. So we kicked your rear ends out of Canada, and we went down and burned your White House. We burned your White House, man. Don't forget, the Canadians burned the White House, and we'll take it off anymore.
Do you Canadians have this strong oral tradition of the day we got one over on the Yanks?
Well, why do you think the White House is white? Is because after you burned it down, you rebuilt it. I think they used the surviving wood, and they just whitewashed it, trying to get all the soot away. If you want a good laugh, look up "Burn the White House Down" song.
I believe. No, there's a Canadian song about burning the White House. That's outstanding.
It's a lot of Yankee ribbon, but it's all in good fun.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm using that for bumper music the next time we talk. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to.
So enough of. We are here to talk about my novels, I believe.
Indeed, yes, so. No. And just I don't know, just by way of opening, I've read all three now. Yeah. I see your maturation. You're growing into a more mature writer as they go. The third one, I think, is certainly the best.
Certainly the longest. 416 pages, whereas the first one was originally it was 133, but then I cropped it down.
Right.
I got 100, and the second one was about 190 odd pages.
Right.
I'm currently working on the fourth one, and I have no idea how long that's going to be. It's currently 12 pages long, and that's just the prologue.
That's great. I personally, I don't have a problem with a long story. I think, as I said on our last stream, I have friends who seem to think it's like a personality positive trait to not have a good attention span, to be like, oh, if it's over 300 pages, I don't want to read it. I'm not that guy. If you want to take me away for 800, 1,000 pages. If you want to be Robert Jordan and take me away for a couple million words, if I'm absorbed, man, I'm there. I think it's go as long as you want. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess it all depends on the story and the way it's written. Like, there are some stories that are super short, but they're written in such a way that I wish they just kept going. And then on the flip side, there are stories that are super flippin' long, and yet there's such a bore to get through. It's like, it's sort of like, this is like, I feel like I'm being tortured enough. I'll tell you all my secrets and where I buried all my bodies. And
right. Absolutely. It's like the great American film critic Roger Ebert said. He said, no good film is too long and no
bad film too short.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've only seen clips of Roger Ebert, but I need to fix that.
Weirdly enough, and if you're not familiar with his full body of work, I could see how this would be a weird statement, but he probably influenced my certainly my writing style and also almost my outlook on life, probably more so than any non-family member. Like if you actually look into that guy's like full body of work, like he was a wise dude. Like, I don't know.
Well,
maybe I'll send you some essays, but.
Well, the only works I've heard of his that he worked on was another YouTuber by the name of History Buffs. Shout out to you if you ever watched this by some chance. And pretty much whenever Robert Ebert was looking at like a good historical movie, he always hated it. Like he hated Tora and like he hated Tora and what's the other one? Waterloo, starring oh shoot, I can't remember his name now. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll remember it later. But yeah. Oh well.
By the way, I love how all your film references are from like the 70s, even though you're younger than me. That's.
What can I say, man? I like the good old classics. I love old. They have a charm about them that you just don't get nowadays.
It's true. Something changed.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it was like. I don't know, like customs change, societies change, or maybe filmmakers just got more political than they should have been. I mean,
well, I certainly agree with that.
Yeah, there are some movies where a subtle political message I can understand, but where it's like when it's like here's the plot, and then the political message like shoves them out of the way, like stand aside so I can steal your spotlight.
Right. And by the way, I don't even like that when I agree with the political statement. Even when I agree with it, I'm like, this just doesn't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand to a certain extent art's always been political. It's just not my thing. Just tell me a good story. That's all I want, you know? But anyway, that also even kind of dovetails into your own work. I think I was busily giving you my tidy elevator pitch opinion for the series at large so far. I think it's wonderful. It's got a lot of wonderful moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, as I said, it certainly shows your maturation as you go, and it's certainly this sort of like. I certainly don't mean this negatively. It's a well-told kind of hero's journey, like almost conventional story in an extremely unconventional fantasy world, and I think that's an excellent combination.
That is me in a nutshell, sir.
What's that?
Unconventional. That's me.
Yes. Certainly this world is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are moments, and this gets into the political thing you were just talking about. There are moments in it that might get you into a little bit of hot water when you eventually do publish these.
Police?
What's that?
With the political correctness police?
You know exactly what I'm referring to. Yes. People are quite sensitive in this day and age, and I can't pinpoint the exact moment when that happened, but at some point, certain things.
I have no sympathy for people who are hypersensitive and butthurt all the time. It's like, people, if you're so offended by, let's say, if you're so offended by a certain movie or by something a guy said, then don't listen, don't watch him, just go away. You don't have to listen.
My thoughts exactly, and you
don't have to like start a hashtag and destroy something and get a film blocked or get a TV show canceled just because you were butthurt about it. It's called changing the channel.
Yes.
We are all capable of it.
I couldn't agree more. And this is a whole thing we could get down into, but I really despise. I really just
quite yet.
What's that?
Let's not go down that rabbit hole quite yet. That's something for another day.
Indeed. I just briefly, I really despise how certain film properties become like this cultural touchstone. Like, if you like it, it means you're this politics. If you don't like it, it means you're that politics. It's like, well, no, I like it based on the quality. Like, the girl Ghostbusters sucked not because I hate women. It sucked because it sucked.
Yes.
You know, it's... I don't know exactly when that happened, when all these things were like, okay, you have to pick a side on this, like, film property. It's so dumb. Anyway, yeah, we can cut that off here, but I'll leave it at that. There are elements, especially in the third book with the Children of the Sands, that published as they are would cause some Twitter people to be angry at you, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that when I wrote when I was writing them. It's like, oh dear. Am I going to be crucified by certain individual groups?
Yes. No, but
I was actually basing the way that the Children of the Sands are described off the way that J.R.R. Tolkien was describing the Southrons and the Easterlings. Off of them, sort of like that.
Oh, don't tell them that. Then they'll cancel. They'll cancel J.R.R. Tolkien.
They wouldn't dare. No, like, Tolkien fans would unite, and they would ride up. They would ride forth like the Riders of Rohan, and on horses and full mail and hauberk and regalia, and charge them down like the Battle of Pelennor Fields.
It's well said. And I remember seeing. I think it was it was either the second or third Narnia movie. It was the Prince Caspian one, where there was a scene where there were some people obviously based on, you know, a particular
even how the Telmarines were based off the conquistadors.
Yeah, that may be what I'm referring to. But even in like 2014 or whenever that came out, I was just like, wow, this just feels like so not like according to the, you know, sensitive bitch snowflake times that we live in now. You know what I mean? Like,
we are relics from an age long past, my friend.
Indeed. Yeah. But anyway, that's mainly my overarching thing, is that it's excellent, and it's going to get you in trouble if and when it's published. But
well, to which I will say to those people, look, if you're offended by the book, then don't buy it, don't read it. But I would like you to.
Yeah, but of course now we need to exile people who hurt our feelings. We need to
send them to the gulag.
Yes.
Like Stalin.
We're starting to get a little bit political here.
Do you actually know that the term political correctness originated during the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia?
I did not know that, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think Leon Trotsky, when he was censoring the newspaper, he used the term, you're not allowed to print anything that isn't politically correct, like anything that reminds us of the old Tsar regime.
As in, like, we don't even think about what those words mean together now, right? Like, you have to have the correct politics to be able to print.
Yeah, that is getting rather terrifying nowadays.
A little bit.
I mean, for example, like, did you hear about the Covington Kid debacle? The Covington Kids?
I did, yeah.
Oh, brother, that was a complete and total hash.
Yeah, it was. Nobody looked good.
No.
It was, disaster top to bottom. But let's get to the books. So, first of all, obviously, the big set piece, and I believe you told me this was the scene that kind of wrung you out writing. Like, you really, you were exhausted after writing it.
The climax of book 3,
the witch battle.
Oh, by the way, for those people who are watching the stream, if you want a plot synopsis of the first 2 books and half of the third book, just go take a look at our previous stream, which should be on the World Renowned Historians channel. Just because I don't want to do another plot synopsis, because that took us an hour last time.
Indeed. Currently 2 streams ago, but I'll go ahead and private the one where I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
Once we're done with this one, but
yeah, or you can just simply delete it. Anyway, so yeah, you like the climax of book 3.
The witch battle. Yes, it was.
The dragon witches.
It was very, very good. I feel I'm not super up on historical witch accusations, but I feel like that was a pretty good origin story historically speaking. Like people thought that like the devil came and found like women just living their life, and the devil was like, hey, you want to like, I'll give you all this shit, and they were like, hell yeah. And then, you know, just incrementally they got deeper and deeper and deeper. But maybe just tell me, what was the inspiration for these two characters?
What was the inspiration for those two characters? Well, actually, it wasn't what you described, like the devil saying, hey, I'll give you all this stuff. Whereas in my books, the Great Deceiver, the devil took everything away from them, like their families, their loved ones, like everything. They were left destitute, and
that's right. Yeah.
Like, hey, I'll give you all this stuff back and more. You just got to work for me for a little while.
Right.
But as the years went by, they just they forgot about their loved ones, and they just like they got a power addiction, pretty much.
Right.
Until by this point, there's virtually nothing left of their old selves because they may not even be fully human anymore, because at the end, because of the bits where Jason gets flown up to the top of the mountain, carried off by the basilisk, and he fights the head witch Byzantium, and he punches her in the face. Part of her face falls away, and he sees like there's nothing underneath of it except like a rotten jawbone. So he's thinking, "Good God, her face! What are you? You're not human."
Yeah, it was a great scene, and the part where you're referring to, where you know, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a small rescue. You know, you can almost hear like the soundtrack swelling as the baby's like, you know, struggling to like hold him up in the air. He's like, come on. He's like almost just acting like a parachute as he like glides him down.
Yeah,
somewhere
well,
safe.
he was pretty much like a impromptu parachute at that moment. The little dragon whelpling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, what did you think of the very end of the book, where I changed perspectives all of a sudden, and we changed to a new group of characters that that group of bad guys was the same group of bad guys that you see. Well, the one bad guy is the same one you see at the end of book 2.
Yes.
Lieutenant.
Yes, whose name, as far as I know, we don't know yet, unless I missed something.
The lieutenant.
Yes.
But he's also a half-breed.
Yes, I was like racking my brains, like, did we meet this guy in book 1? Because like I don't remember exactly who, but somebody knew him in book 2 and was like, you. So like he's obviously like, close to them.
Well, the lieutenant's during the climax of book 2 at the battle of the train station, Jason jumps up and he's about to run off somewhere. And he's staring down the barrel of a PO8 Luger.
Yes,
but he can't. And it's the lieutenant who, earlier in that novel, had killed Myra's protector, the old man Lazarus.
Yes.
But the lieutenant doesn't shoot him. He's like Jason. Jason doesn't know who the guy is because he was wearing like a full gas mask and everything. But he could see his eyes were like starting out of their heads, like, "You can't be here. What are you doing here?" Right.
Yeah, that's exactly the moment I'm talking about.
The lieutenant knows Jason, and actually, at the end of the book, the lieutenant said that he grew up with Jason.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah, it was really interesting because like we're
doesn't know who he is.
We're kind of starting to see like the full arc, I guess. You know, these what you're talking about, and obviously spoiler alert if you eventually read these, but these are the main villains from the second book, and we're led to believe essentially that they're going to be the main villains throughout, and we barely see them in book 3 actually. Like there's like one little skirmish in the middle, and for the most part we have like a totally different set of villains, and then they come back in at the end, and so we almost have this like tripartite thing happening. We've got like the Arthurians and the Sulians, and then there's also this kind of wild card of the Sand Children, and it'll be interesting to see what role they play.
Well, the Sand Children, they were more or less the main villains in book 3. The Sulians weren't even, I didn't bring them in until like, I didn't bring like the main force in until like right at the end. Although there was that one skirmish in the middle of the book.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting to see that there's a greater arc happening here. It's not just this, Star Wars trilogy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, this book series definitely ain't a trilogy.
Yeah.
I thought originally set out to write this thing in one big massive thing, and I thought it'd be done in 6 months. My goodness, how wrong! I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yes, that's almost impractical, I think.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. And also, Tolkien, when he was writing the Lord of the Rings, he was planning on publishing it in one big massive volume. But no one would want to read a book that big, because we say don't judge a book by its cover, but let's be honest, we always do.
Yes.
And two, I think this is just after the Second World War, and paper prices and ink was at a premium, so it was cheaper to print a bunch of books than one big one.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, actually. I thought I'd read somewhere that he was pretty mad that his publisher split it up. I'm just like, well, dude, like, nobody wants a 1,000-page book. I mean, to like Stephen King's The Stand. Like, what do you think you're doing? The Canterbury Tales? Like,
well, I think you'd be happy to know that there are some editions of the Lord of the Rings there where it has like the Silmarillion, the Hobbits, and the Lord of the Rings in one big massive volume. My one friend has it, and you could use that thing as a club to kill someone because it's so big. It's so thick and heavy.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like, I realized like he was an old school guy and like didn't care about, prevalent publishing trends or whatever. But this is the time when like frickin' Catcher in the Rye comes out. It's 150 pages. You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of going against the grain, bud. Like, but
yes. So I asked you this last time, but you said you had to wait until you finished book 3 to answer me. But out of all 3, what are your favorite scenes from each book?
Oh boy, each book, yeah. I told you I was ready. So obviously, like, the witch battle is great. The scenes with
this is for book 3, right?
Yes.
Your favorite for book 3?
Yes. The scenes with Tilla, kind of like learning about the technological world.
Well, her name's pronounced Tila, but
Tila, fair enough. Yeah. No, that's like, all that stuff's great. We're just like, what's a lawn chair? Like, what's school? Like, the whole conversation about school was really fun.
Yeah, because the Arthurians have no concept of school, because the society I based off of wouldn't have like a government funded school. No, like, if you wanted to learn something, your parents had to teach you. There was no like infrastructure for schooling.
Right. It's kind of more of like I don't know. For the most part, ancient Rome was like that. Like the super rich sent their kids to Greece to learn from like great learned men or whatever. But for the most part, yeah, you learn from your parents. Yeah. Book 2, there were a lot. There was Goatman's sort of sacrifice. That was great. The sneaking the dragon on the train car. That was really wonderful.
Well, the attempt at getting it at the train car.
Right.
They actually didn't get that far.
I seem to remember the end when like all the Sulian military personnel are like they're holding a meeting and like half the room's blown off. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that was the character Az's handiwork. He tried to blow up the big central tower in Empire City, but he didn't use quite enough magic in the magic bomb, and he only managed to blow a chunk out of it. And that room was like where the blast kind of petered out. Like,
right. And that's just a wonderful image. Like, they're all like trying to be like professional, serious guys, and they're in like a sudden balcony because some child terrorist has like blown off half the building. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Az is quite bloodthirsty.
The all the Underhaven stuff was great because you've got as I think I said last time, Mrs. Draconis, who's like this mother hen over like all these kind of like rebels, basically. Like, I think I said it's got this like Peter Pan Lost Boys quality to it.
Yeah, Yeah, about like Peter Pan, like the way it was originally told, not like the sanitized Disney version. If you ever look up like the original story of Peter Pan, it gets very dark every now and then.
I believe you. It's probably that like Brothers Grimm quality where it's like, oh no, we're like,
this is your old school fairy tale, son.
Yeah, it's like the Cormac McCarthy version or something. Shoot, book one, what really stood out to me was when I first realized this was like a mixed world. And I think you said you hadn't seen Interstellar, but that's what it reminded me of, was like, Interstellar is, of course, the opposite version. You know, you've got a mix of fantasy and kind of like 20th century tech, whereas Interstellar had like 20th century tech and extreme far sci-fi. But it was similar, just like pickup trucks driving through a cornfield kind of thing. Like that image like really stuck out to me, kind of thing. But anyhow, shoot, let's see. So there was a moment in chapter 6 where there's
which book is this? Which chapter 6 are we talking about?
Book 3.
Okay, book 3.
Oh, you know, I did want to point out actually the mythology in book 1, which I have the memory of a goldfish. I can't remember if we covered this on the last stream, but
I'm not sure if we covered it. I might have put it in the synopsis, but I might have skipped over it, like the Cliff Note version.
Yeah, and it actually refers to book 3 as well. All the mythology and the history, it feels really old. You know, I mean, it's written in the kinds of forms that like ancient writers would do things. Like for instance, in the third, you refer to like when you're describing like why horses can't talk anymore. It refers to like there's like a perfect ideal form of something, and then it kind of, you know, this isn't the terms you put it in, but it kind of degrades from there, right?
Yeah.
And that's all over the place in ancient mythology, like in disparate cultures that had no like contact with each other. It's almost like the story of the flood. Like it's all over the world, you know. So that
so like every culture on Earth has had a dragon myth in some shape or form or other. Like
exactly.
Like the Aztecs, they had a feathered serpent god called Quetzalcoatl, which incidentally is also the name of a flying pterosaur. The Welsh definitely had a dragon. The English, the Irish, the Norse definitely had several dragons, like Nidhogg and Fafnir. Although technically he was a dwarf turned into a dragon, but that's beside the point. The Chinese, the Japanese, and the Koreans definitely had dragons. I think a few African cultures also had dragons. I think India had dragons, although I think they called theirs Naga. And I could be talking out of my rear end here, but I think I heard one Inuit story an Inuit's legend where they had like a dragon, something like that.
That rings true to me. So a lot of the mythology of your world feels very universal like that, and I'm just curious if that was like conscious, like if you intended that.
It might have been subconscious because well, as we previously stated in the previous stream, I am a believer in the flood.
Right.
And my theory is that after the flood, and Noah let off all the animals from the ark and whatnot. Actually, before the ark, apparently, I think God said that you will never be able to interact with these animals like you can now. Like before the flood, you can go up to a tiger and pet it, and they were all everything was great. But after the flood, they became wild and fierce, and also. Apparently, there were also dinosaurs on the flood because have you ever heard of the description of the Leviathan in the Bible? Like he had I don't have my copy lying around here, unfortunately.
I looked it up and I used it in my second book, to be totally honest.
Yeah, because the way the Leviathan is described, he said like his feet shake the ground whenever he walks, and his tail is like a cedar tree. And people would be constantly describing like, oh, he's describing an elephant or a rhinoceros. But I'm butchering this horribly. My one friend said, no, what is being described is possibly a sauropod dinosaur, a long-necked dinosaur. And fun fact, before the term dinosaur came around, people kept referring to them as dragons. So who knows? Maybe the legend of dragons were actually a thing, and people were just encountering dinosaurs. And actually, I need to find this link and share it to you. There is actual evidence to suggest that humans and dinosaurs did actually coexist for a while. Like there's this one set of footprints of a theropod dinosaur, three-toed dinosaur, walking along, and walking next to it was a pair of human footprints.
Interesting.
And also there was another fossil of a triceratops leg, and deeply embedded inside it was a flint arrowhead. And also, I believe there was this experiment done down in your neck of the woods, down in the States, where these scientists discovered soft tissue in a Tyrannosaurus bone.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I need to find that link and share it to you, so you know I'm not talking crazy here.
Did you see that Russell Crowe film Noah?
And no, I did not really have any intention of seeing it. They kind of pushed it, in my opinion.
You said they butchered it?
Yeah, well, just the way they presented that's the story for another day.
Understood.
The same guy who made that also made the Christian Bale Moses movie, and in there they also tried to describe
Christian Bale made a Moses movie.
Yeah, he portrayed Moses in Gods and Kings. Yeah, he portrayed Moses.
Oh.
Yeah, and
this is news to me. I have no memory of this.
Yeah, well, they tried to describe the 10 plagues of Egypt. You know, like the locusts and the dark and the deep darkness and the death of the firstborn. They tried to show that as like natural events that all happened at once. I don't like films that try to take the divineness out of biblical stories.
Do you like the old '60s ones, like the Charlton Heston? Like,
oh yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, I have that.
We made a couple, didn't he?
Yes, he was in Ben-Hur, and also he was in the Ten Commandments. That one, and I think he was in one or two others.
Like Greatest Story Ever Told. Like that, was he in that?
No,
I thought he played Jesus in that for some reason.
No, I think that was Peter Cook. That wasn't Peter O'Toole, was it? I only saw that movie.
Oh, you might be right.
I only saw that movie once, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, the '60s ones you like more though.
Yeah, well, I think they have more respect for the source material than biblical movies made nowadays.
Gotcha. Now they're almost like trying to be like a critique or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where were we before we started talking about floods? And you were talking about the mythology of my world,
and how it feels kind of old and universal. Like I get equally like an Iliad feel as much as I could get like a cave painting feel from it. And that's actually not that easy to write, in my opinion. Like to actually kind of replicate that vibe of an ancient writer. So it was interesting to me. I was curious if you did some research to kind of get that kind of voice, or if you just winged it.
I just winged it, to be honest. Huh? I did my best. Although that being said, I did try to write it in a way that someone from my world's universe would have written it. Right. Like the mythologies, like that the one scene during the Great Feast in the Great Hall, the Arthurian Great Hall in Mount Presidium. Right. Where the character Old Aldridge is telling the story about how horses used to speak, right, and how they lost their voices, and how horses were originally created for the race of Arthurians to use, and how eventually and how the other races got their hands on them by stealing them.
And I was definitely filming that scene. It's very evocative.
Yeah. For a few happy centuries, the Arthurians were the most powerful army ever to ride to war, because no one else had horses. And then all of a sudden, one day, an entire army of horse-drawn scythe chariots appear from over the mountains, and well, it's sort of like, think of it like this way: for a few months after World War II, America was the mightiest superpower because they were the only ones who had a bomb. But then the Russians detonated their bomb, and they lost their supremacy. And then
well,
that so they lost their edge. They lost their technical superiority, or animal husbandry superiority, I should say in this case.
Yeah, or I mean that's happened several times throughout history, right? Like the Europeans show up, and the natives have never seen horses, and then give it a generation, and the natives are light years better horsemen than the Europeans are. Of course, they still got the worst end of that due to various other factors, primarily plague, but yeah.
And also technological innovations.
Right.
The Europeans come over here with black powder weapons and steel tools, and the natives only have flint arrowheads and bone tools. And yeah, how was it described? Like,
most importantly, never been exposed to smallpox.
Well, they did. Well, yeah. Well, actually, there's a YouTube video that I find very interesting. It's called "What If the Vikings Stayed in North America?" Because the Vikings they actually colonized North America 500 years before Columbus ever did. And FYI, Columbus never reached North America. He reached the Caribbean. That's beside the point.
He made it onto the tectonic plate. Okay, he never actually reached the landmass.
Okay, he found the New World. Despite the fact he honestly believed he had landed in India, but well, we won't say that. But so pretty much this guy, the video he made, he described like an alternate scenario where like the Greenland colony never went extinct, and trade from Viking Europe continued to flood into North America. And basically, he described the situation where the Vikings and the natives' cultures kind of intermingled, and they became like they became a force that would, by the time that Columbus's lot came over, they would have been able to fend off the Europeans.
So I love these counterfactuals. Like, I think that there's a whole channel that I watch called it's like What If History or something, like their alternate history. I think it's the Alternate History Hub.
Is that the name of the channel?
Yeah, that's the name of the channel that I watch. But
I watch that channel too.
I love them, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, what if it rained? Like there's all these millions of and I think even the alternate history guys say that in the videos. They're like, look, there's a million variables. We can't say what would have happened if X didn't happen, but it's fun anyway. And who knows?
History does real world history always does tend to hinge on those little details. Like I think during the Battle of Midway in World War II, the Japanese they were winning that battle. They were winning that battle, but then. But they sent out their float planes to try to locate the American fleet. I think they sent out 5, but the 5th one had trouble. Was delayed taking off.
Right.
And that was the one that ended up locating the American fleet. But by the time they did locate it, it was too late, and the Japanese lost a few carriers. Whereas if it had taken off with the rest and located the American fleet, there's a very good chance that the west coast of your country would be speaking Japanese right now.
In fact, are you familiar with The Man in the High Castle?
I am aware of it. I have neither read the book nor watched the show in its entirety. I've seen bits and pieces of it, though.
Okay, I haven't read the book myself, but yeah, the show is pretty good.
Yeah, I once tried my hand at writing an alternate World War II story where the Germans and the Japanese take over. And the Allies somehow managed to fend them off. I mean,
it's believable. Like I've been to San Francisco where you go there's this hill coming at the Golden Gate Bridge from the north, you're going south across it. There's this huge hill, almost a mountain, and on top of it there's these old bunkers where they put in gun turrets just in case,
Just in case.
Yeah, obviously it was believable at the time, but my friend, I think we should take a quick break, and I actually do have an intermission screen set up, unlike last week. So, what do you say we take 3 minutes, stretch our legs, and we'll come back and continue with your books?
Okay, we'll be back. We'll be live in 3 minutes, everyone.
Perfect.
we offline? So they can still hear me? Well, everyone, while the world-renowned historian is doing that, I am also going to take a little break, so I'll be back in another 3 minutes. All right.
Brother Harrison.
Yes, I'm still here.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
By the way, I wanted to point out too that I don't see these couple streams we're doing here as in any way definitive. Like, this isn't the last word we're gonna say about like either of our work, frankly. Like, you, as I said, got me back into writing, so I see this as being like an ongoing thing, and I hope that is what ends up happening. So
yeah, I would not be opposed to that idea.
Good deal.
Yeah, like every other week we do something like this.
Yeah, right. You know, I'll send you chapters, you'll send me chapters, etc. So
yeah, you might be waiting for a while because my writing process is I write in spurts, and also kind of set myself little deadlines, and usually I wait until like the 11th hour, or I start working on it.
So you need that you need that student working on an essay sort of adrenaline.
Yeah, something like that. And also, I've got like several different works on the go, all set in the same, like set in the Draco-Rex universe.
Okay, so you're doing like an expanded universe kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I thought to myself, I said this last time. I created the story. I created the story and the world around it, but then I thought to myself, I might as well give this world like a history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also try to explain like why certain things are. Like, for example, there is a whole faction that we will meet later on in the series, and they fought, and they have bad history with the Sulians, but the Sulians have absolutely no idea that they exist. They've completely forgotten about them, and they forgot about them because something happened to the Sulians that this other faction caused. So basically,
do you ever do a deep dive on the history of Sulia and how they sort of take everything over?
Yes. Well, this is gonna be. I guess this isn't really spoilers because this is like ancient world history as far as my world's concerned. But the Sulians, they honestly the story they tell themselves is that the gods came down to Earth and they created Earth. And then they decided that they would create a being, and they would each put a portion of their power into this being. And this being was the first man called Sul. And Sul was perfect and beautiful, and he was so perfect and beautiful that the gods themselves fell down and worshipped him. But the beasts that the gods had made before grew jealous, so they bred amongst themselves to make themselves look like Sul, and they fought against the gods. But Sul stepped forth and told these beasts to go away. And the gods were scared of these beasts, and they said to Sul, "We shall return to the heavens. It is your task to subdue the earth and to take these beasts and tame them, basically." And basically, the Sulians think themselves as the only true-blooded humans. Everything else, all the other people are descended from beasts. Like
there's your Aryan influence again.
My Nazi belief. But whereas the Nazis believed it to be scientific fact, the Sulians, well, they also believe it to be scientific fact, but they also believe it's like we are holier than thou in like the truest sense of the words. Like, but their levels of disgust for people, like, they're human first. Like they view like other races of men like we are the guiding influence that shall lead you into enlightenment and paradise. Whereas the elves, they kind of view like you are nothing. You are not but the rejects and the casts off. You are less than animal. You are the lowest of the low.
So since you brought up the Sulians, I believe you told me last time that they are not based on the United States.
No, they are not.
And then you give me lines about how they got unlimited access to the oil under the sand desert. I think you're putting me on, my friend.
Hey, let's look at it this way: if you were the world's strongest superpower, but you needed a large amount of crude oil to fuel your empire, of course you're gonna take over and rule that part of the world that controls oil. Be it the United States or in real world history, the Soviet Union with Afghanistan. And look how badly that went for them.
Yeah, the U.S. did the same thing. Right. So, okay, maybe it's more fair to say that you didn't base it on the U.S., you based it on that dynamic. Yeah,
like superpower needs resources. They see other nation or group of nation has resources. They like, that is now ours. You will either hand it over to us freely or we'll send in the troops. And we send in the troops, there will be none of you lot left.
Right. Which, I mean, well, if we want to get into the actual history, it'd be interesting to see the Children of the Sands fighting an asymmetric war against the Sulians. I mean, because that's actually what happened.
Well, actually, what happened with I described at the very end of book 3 why the Sulians are the masters of the endless sands. They helped. They basically helped. They set up a couple of puppet government.
Right, they've got puppet dictators.
Puppet dictators. That the Sultan of Kasbaran and the Khan of Sardun.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it was hard to not see like Herod. I know you're versed on your biblical history. I'm just like when they're having like a party at the end, they're like, "Oh, I heard you were grieving," and there's like all these babes like dancing. It's like, "Oh, okay."
Right. Like you and I have two very different ideas of how a wake is conducted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think before our break, I was talking about a moment in Chapter 6 when there's Chapter 6, Book 3, of course. There's the cave under the mountain with all the gold, and the character Strath is showing it to Myra.
Yeah. Strath.
Strath.
Fun fact of how I came up with these names. Like the names Strath, his twin sisters Terry, and the dragoness Twizel. Those are all location names in New Zealand where they filmed the Lord of the Rings / Hobbit movies.
Nice. That's excellent. I will continue to mangle them just for future reference.
Okay, and I will continue to correct them.
Yes, that's fair. But yes, the character is showing it to Myra. And first of all, it's a great image. And second of all, there's like a commentary on how it's like sad. I think Strath is talking about how it's sad that they like dig it out. And that was interesting to me because it's like all over ancient writings everywhere. Like Pliny and like Tacitus are all like, oh, it's so sad that we have to like tear up the environment just to like get our resources. So that was an interesting line to me, and I was wondering what the inspiration behind that was.
Oh, I think it was actually the kids, the 3 kids who were with us.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
It's a shame that has to be ripped up because the characters Myra and Azza, to them, that cave was the most beautiful thing they'd ever seen in their entire life. Like rivers of gold ore running, going through the stone, like flowing through the stone, and swaths of silver ore, and like speckled with diamonds and rubies and emeralds and precious jewels all over the place. It's sort of like, well, basically, it's sort of they thought of it like this is a beautiful cave. I wish we didn't have to tear it up, but we have to because when the Arthurians are in exile. But when they leave exile and they go to Arthuria, they go out. They know for a fact that they're going to be challenging the Sulian Empire and every other nation out there to a war to the death. And as I think I can't remember which character it was, but one of the characters say, war is an expensive venture, and they need all that gold, silver, and jewels to pay for it. And also, the reason they tore it up, they cleaned out that treasure cave, is because they know once the Arthurians leave the protected sanctuary, which is described as a ring of mountains 1,000 feet high, protecting a green and plentiful land within, separating it from the outside sands. They know that when they leave, the children of the sands will swamp in and basically claim that land for themselves. And the Arthurians are like, okay, well, we don't care about that. We don't care about our sanctuary being taken over by you lot once we're gone. But we'll be darned if we leave you anything valuable here. Leave you anything valuable to get rich off our expense. Because we held this place for 12,000 years, darn it, and we're not. You can have it, but we're strip mining the place first.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting commentary there. We're like, I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase like tragedy of the commons. Like basically, it just means that like if I don't take it, someone else is going to. So
I have heard the concept before. Yes.
So I better take it. Yeah. It was an interesting moment of human nature to me.
Yeah, human nature, despite the fact that the Arthurians are only half human, half elf.
Well, fair. The nature of a sentient being, I suppose.
For lack of a better term, we'll use human nature.
Yes.
Yeah, and also, it's not just the fact that it's prime real estate that these sand children are trying to get into the sanctuary. they view the Arthurian peoples as their rightful slaves because 12,000 years. I said this last time during the plot synopsis. When the Dragon King was deposed by the Great Deceiver, and the 9 faithful tribes of Arthuria who remained loyal to the Dragon King were exiled to the Endless Sands. They were sold into slavery to the Faradine, the people who became the Children of the Sands. And for 3,000 years, they were their prisoners. They were their slaves. And they built, and the Arthurian, the Faradines built up a great and mighty empire on the backs of their Arthurian slaves. But when the Arthurians freed themselves and shattered the old Faradinic empire, like the Faradines just kind of look on them. They look on the Arthurians and the ruins of their great and mighty empire, and they think, if only we had kept control of them. Maybe if we regain control of them, all we can rebuild our old empire and be like we were once again.
There's a moment. There's a moment early in book 3 where I don't remember exactly which chief says it, but he says that they won't crown Lisa as the queen because they insist on sticking by the rules. Because like while the actual ruler still lives, we can't do that.
Yeah, there's only they can't. The Arthurian law is very clear. It is only lawfully permitted to crown a new king or slash queen of Arthuria when the current king slash queen has died. Although that being said, there was one time in their history where one of their kings was deposed and a new one crowned in his place. But that was with unusual circumstances, and also that king who was deposed was up until the current king of Arthuria. He was remembered as like the worst king of Arthuria because he just completely mismanaged it. He was remembered as Ivar the Unready, among other names.
So the refusal to like stage a coup and just deal with it is interesting to me. Like sticking by the rules even when it's inconvenient.
Yeah, despite the fact that the current king despite the fact that the current king is the one who booted them out of Arthuria, along with his own daughter, and is also had also sworn loyalty to the great evil of this world. Under Arthurian traditions, the Arthurians are still honor bound to recognize him as their king. Despite the fact they know that they would have every right, like history would remember them as being correct for deposing him and not following his commands.
So sticking to that is very interesting. There's the wonderful American author John Steinbeck. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said that the guy who tries Marcus of Queensberry rules in boxing against a gutter fighter is going to get his head kicked in. And I largely kind of agree with that. I feel like if one side is sticking to the rules and the other side just doesn't care about the rules, the side that doesn't care about the rules kind of has an edge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that because let's look for an example. Like the British Empire, they built the biggest empire in world history, but they did it by let's say several nefarious means. Like in North America, they did it with the smallpox blankets for the natives.
They took over your country, dog.
Yeah, and also with the Irish, they just stomped in and occupied the place. Which, by the way, we're still sorry about that. I'm Scotch Irish. I'm not like Irish. Like, all Englishmen must die. That's right. No, I'm not like that. But also they conquered India, and after the Indian uprising, they annihilated like several rajas and kingdoms. Like, you can't build the world's biggest empire by being nice about it.
No.
You can't win wars by being nice about it.
Might makes right.
Yeah, but also, going back to what I just said, like, you can't win wars by being nice about it. In World War II, like, our lot, the Allies, we didn't win the war. The Soviets won it for us. Because,
you're not wrong.
Because basically, well, for starters, they were bearing the brunt of it. And also, they were just fighting like Satan himself. They were just vicious. They were more vicious than the Germans in some cases.
I want to say it's like 1 in 6 adult Russian males died in that war.
Yeah, 22 million dead at the end of it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
They would throw guys out of a plane without parachutes, thinking, okay, a quarter of you will live. That's good enough. Have guys like running. I don't have a gun, but I'm running behind someone who has a gun. So when he dies, I can pick up his gun. Like
the first man takes the rifle, the second ammunition. When the one with the rifle gets killed, not if, when, the second with the ammunition takes the rifle and shoots.
Yeah. So. Exactly. So seeing the Arthurians so steadfastly stick to their guns, A, as the reader, you wonder if that's going to blow up in their face, and B, it's just interesting as a societal, they insist on sticking to their norms. It's interesting to read.
Well, when it comes to like proper war fighting, yeah, if it was there's no way the Arthurians they will fight dirty. I sent you a link to my to that one video I made about the events in the past of my world called the story of Ghost Past, how the Sulian Empire, they invaded quote unquote wild Arthuria,
right,
with like 76,000 men, and not one of them came back. Well, correction, one came back. They lost 75,999 men, and I don't think I did a very good job describing like the events leading up to the big battle that saw the Sulians get annihilated. But before then, the Arthurians were like leading them in with like guerrilla tactics, coming in at night and slitting the throats of their enemies while they slept, or burning or setting fire to the wagon trains at night.
Okay, so but that's like a battle tactic. What I'm even talking about is just they will stick to their own norms of legitimate governance. Which
they are honor bound to do that.
Like I don't know about your country. My country doesn't do that. Like I'm not going to get into the specifics, but like one side is just like, well, what if we just don't follow this rule and like they just keep getting away with it? You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about something like that in my country. All I know is that currently, no, I'm not gonna make that. I'm gonna make that comment. Oh, I really want to make that comment. Anyway, that's a comment. That's a topic for another day.
I don't even know how your system works, to be honest.
I don't really know either. Apparently, as far as I know, my country is a lot more liberal than yours. Like the Conservative Party up here would be your Liberal Party down there.
Yes, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, like we are far more liberal than your lot. Although, yeah, well, I'm staunchly conservative, so I don't know how to. So technically, I would be an American liberal, but I'm Canadian conservative.
Right. That makes sense. The last thing I saw about your prime minister, which who fucking knows how you pick one of those? I don't know how you pick a prime minister.
Well, what happens is, we don't have like what you have down there. Like every 4 years, we have to have a vote to decide whether or not, for this year, this 2020, whether Trumpy is going to stay in charge or it's going to be somebody else.
Right.
Whereas up here, we can call for an election of whatever the heck we want. But normally, we have to have a good reason why we're calling for an election. Normally, it's sort of like the people demand, like either like the prime minister will step down, or there's a lot of bad press, or like how the Liberals got in charge. Like people were just tired of the Conservatives being in command, so they voted in Trudeau. Although that being said, and you probably don't know about this, but our current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he is the son of a former Prime Minister, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And
I did not know that. So he's like George W. Bush, basically.
Well, yeah, but George W. Bush actually knew what the heck he was doing, whereas the only reason my prime minister got elected was because apparently he looks good. I wouldn't know that. I'm straight. Two, he was like making all these grand promises, which par for the course for a politician. And 3, his daddy was prime minister before him. So
gotcha.
Looks, the promises, and the name was the only reason he got into politics and got elected. And I don't know if you know this, but apparently he's being investigated for illegal activity.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The last thing I saw about him was somebody said like, it wasn't this, but it was something like someone said like mankind, and he was like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The
I was
people,
like, what are you talking about?
yeah. This is the leader of Canada, everyone. Nazi.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Not Nazi.
My friend, did you like The Last Jedi?
I enjoyed it. There was the one bit.
I did too. I loved it.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. But the bit with Canto Bight with the Las Vegas planet, I thought was completely superfluous.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard people say that.
Yeah, and also I thought Rose Tico, the character Rose Tico, was a bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I didn't mind her, to be honest. The relevance.
I thought she was pretty good. I mean, I also feel so sorry for the actress who played her, who played Rose Tico, because apparently she was hounded off of Twitter for the way she performed, and also the website Wikipedia. It's Star Wars Wikipedia.
Uh-huh.
Some racist jackass decided that he was going to edit Rose Tico's profile, and he just started throwing racial slurs, like Asian racial slurs, I'm not going to repeat it.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, he's probably a YouTuber. It wouldn't surprise me. The relevance here is humor. One thing that stuck out to me, a lot of the critiques of Last Jedi when it first came out was people didn't like the humor. They felt like it came at inappropriate times. And I was like, have you seen the original trilogy? Like, there's silly jokes, like the biggest scene in the trilogy, like Chewie's wearing a disassembled C-3PO on his back, and he's like making like weird jokes about it. I'm like, there's like goofy humor all throughout. So
I can understand why they're saying that, because some of the jokes kind of felt forced at times, like the ending scene of Last Jedi where Rose prevents Finn from sacrificing himself. Which, by the way, when I saw that for the first time, I had never felt my heart pounding so hard, like seeing Finn.
I teared up.
Run, and then Rose prevents him. Was like, that's how we're gonna win. Not by destroying what we hate, but by saving what we love.
Absolutely, I teared up. So
what you're saying, Rose, is that we should have loved the Death Star right before it blew up Gavin Ford. Your logic is flawed, my good lady. It is from the heart. I agree. I will say that, but it is sadly flawed.
My point is, in your book 3, you have a lot more humor lines, even frankly during ostensibly tense scenes. You have some humor lines that didn't bother me.
I'm just trying to remember which line you're referring to, because.
During the witch battle, there's like Jason and Myra take they have a few quips in, but like they speak a few quips and they have a few quips in their internal dialogue. It felt very like Indiana Jonesy to me.
Well, I think they were basically thinking like that because they're running on adrenaline at that point, and their minds are going like a mile a minute.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But like to the reader, it reads like some kind of like essentially humorous. Like you're like cracking a joke as this witch is like threatening to skin your back. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know. Like what are your thoughts on like humor in tense situations in a scene?
If it works, if it can work, use it. But if it's at like an inappropriate time, like if someone cracks off a bad joke I don't know. It's all a balancing act, I should say. I guess I should say.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with that. And to be clear, like their quips, like your character's quips in the scene completely worked for me. I didn't think they were out of place at all.
Well, I think Myra made that quip is because she's a kid and she's full of nervous energy. And what do so there are certain kids I know that when they're confronted by something, they start like giggling uncontrollably because they know they're going to be in trouble. It's like okay, I'm gonna be in so much trouble, but I'm trying desperately to see the bright side of it. Right up until the wooden spoon comes out and I'm spanked.
Right. Yeah. Make a joke out of it.
Yeah. I still have memories of when that happened to me. Ooh.
So I guess your final answer on humor in tense situations, like if it makes sense for the character, then
When it's
fine.
appropriate and it works for the character, use it. But if the character hasn't earned it or it's not appropriate for the scene, don't use it. It just don't. There's a time and a place. I like to say there's a time and a place. And frankly, at the end, the last scene with Rose Tico and Last Jedi was not the time and the place for that. And also, the look on Finn's face when Rose steals that kiss from him was like, where'd that come from? I've only known you for like literally 24 hours.
I mean,
apparently Rose, the character Rose, is a lot worse, a lot worse in the novel adaptation, because apparently in the novel, the scene Canto Bight. I haven't read this. I was just told to me when they're charging through the casino on those giant horse cat monstrosity thingamajigs.
Yeah,
and they're going through they're charging through the casino. There's a scene where one of the rich patrons get knocked into a fish tank and is eaten alive by a giant shark thing. And apparently Rose looked back and was laughing her head off at it because she hated it. She hated like these people were so rich, and she had grown up on a horrible place, poor, like dirt poor.
Yeah, that's a little strange. I'm not sad they cut that. That's
Rose Tico, you have no chill.
Yes.
When the character with Finn, like when she first meets, it's like she was fangirling at him, and then but then the moment she realized that he was trying to desert, she just went full. She just zapped him right there. She went from 0 to 1,000 in like 2 seconds flat.
I mean, just for the comedy value, I think that was just a laugh line.
Like I laughed at the jokes.
Me too.
You know?
Me too.
Yeah.
And like I said, like the original trilogy is so full of like the 70s version of that. Of all, like cheesy jokes, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It worked for me, but beside the point. Moving on.
Moving on. You described your favorite scene in book 2, the scene with all the Sulian generals standing in that half destroyed what's the word, room, that big conference room.
Yeah,
that was for book 2, and for book 3 you said it was the Whelpling acting as a parachute for the character Jason. What was your favorite scene for book 1?
It's been a minute.
All right.
Probably the final invasion, if not just the history.
Yeah, what did you think of the way that the Sulians invaded the Agrocalestes for the second time, with the tunnels popping up all over the place?
So, again, it's been a minute, but I wanted to tell you that I did love the part in book 3 with where she's showing her like how her family got like attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot. It's the one, like the seer's like helping her like see it, right?
Oh yeah,
and she's like watching it happen. Yeah, that was a really touching scene.
Yeah, you had Facebook messages saying that you had read that scene while listening to the soundtrack from Interstellar.
Yes. Yeah. It was really good. Really good.
Well, I wrote that scene. I was listening to the soundtrack from Two Towers, the bit like the end music. Like it was very, very low, very deep, very somber music, very, very, I want to say like subtly sinister music.
Yeah, that rings true for the Interstellar scene I was listening to. But I know you haven't seen it, so I won't describe it. But
well, I haven't seen Interstellar, nor have I listened to the soundtrack, so I'll have to take your word for that. That was also a hard scene to write down, because I was trying to think like, okay, so Myra was being described in detail how her family was stolen away, and the way the character Strath was describing it to her, she was like almost, for lack of a better term, she was almost there. Like she could see it in her mind's eye, and she thought like the way he described her sister running through the cornfield, she thought Myra was thinking she's going to get away, and then she doesn't. She runs into the person who betrayed her.
Yeah, it was strong. It was really strong.
And then she just kind of collapses, like that experience took a lot out of her. Like she kind of experienced like the shock and fear of coming home the next day and finding her family all gone all over again.
Another scene I liked a lot was the pregnancy of Lingtra's wife, causing him to veto the idea of them leaving, and that was real interesting because it was a real impossible situation for that guy. Like, you completely understand where he's coming from, and like on one level you're like, okay, so they've been there 12,000 years, like what's a couple more days? And then like a couple of days later the witches show up and you're like, oh, that's why. Like, that's why they're so anxious to leave. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, well, what made Lingtra decide to recant his veto was his wife basically coming and begging him, look, I don't want to give birth to our firstborn child in this foreign country. I want our child to grow up in the land where you and I grew up.
Right. That's
and also the fact that when Lingtra vetoed the Arthurians going home, and that giant riot ensuing immediately afterwards, like all the other tribes kind of ganged up on the members of the tribe of wolves because, like, hey, your leader is keeping us back. What? And you belong to him because. So we're going to take out our aggression on you because of tribal association.
Right. Yeah, no, it's just a really strong sequence in the story, and how she obviously gets carried out because she can't walk. And
yeah, it's like for those who are listening to this, Lingtra's wife was captured by Sand Children like several decades ago, and both of her Achilles tendons were cut. And since their level of technology is like Iron Age based, there's no way that they could have possibly stitched them back together and healed them. Like, even with the level of technology that Myra's group has, like with like modern medicine, that still would have been touch and go. But since the Arthurians are at a medieval level of technology, she's never going to walk again.
I mean, well, not to spoil anything, like, I haven't read this, but presumably maybe she meets a tech society and they can do a little more for her. Who knows?
No. I'm sorry. When it comes to like that kind of injury back in like the 1940s, like even if you were in the operating room when that happened, there's still a chance that you would never walk again. And it's been like several decades since the injury occurred. And I don't think there's any way that you could possibly reverse the damage.
Just shutting it down now, huh? Can't have any hope for her?
No, she's never going to walk again. But she's accepted that fact and she's moved on. Besides, it's not like it's the end of the world for her.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Although the fact she was once upon a time like the best dancer in Arthuria. She can never dance again, but she's also one of the best singers. So there's that.
So on your, I guess the heroes are essentially trying to resurrect, and I can't remember if we covered this last time. Well, the heroes are essentially trying to resurrect a benevolent dictator, I would say. And it's interesting to me because I think most people in kind of, democratic countries would say, well, no, we don't want a king. Having a king sucks. It's like Churchill said. He was like, democracy is the worst government except for all the others. So I guess, just what are your thoughts personally on the idea of having a king and having like the end goal for your heroes is essentially to cede all power to a single individual?
Well, they're not resurrecting him; they're waking him up. Like Dragon King. I haven't gotten this down yet, but he's actually supposedly like the son of heaven. He is like. He is the only person who has a right to rule on the earth, rule the earth. And one second,
I see the analog you're making, certainly.
Yeah, and whereas what you said about ceding democracy, like, well, to that I would say like. God is I believe God is king. There's no you can't. He is the only one who has authority to do with the world as he sees fit because he is God. And the Arthurians actually there's a scene later on in the series, much later on in the series, where the Arthurians meet up with this world's equivalent of the League of Nations, and the Arthurians are speaking with them, and they keep referring to the other leaders of these modern countries as kings, and then but when they get corrected, like the character Jason describes to them like the basis of democracy, like everyone has a voice, and this is a little preview for much later on down the series. But Zelinda replied to him saying, "So wait, you elect your kings via lottery? That seems a horrible idea. These men are not born to their position. How dare these peasants think that they have the wisdom, the family wisdom, to think that they could rule over a country because they were not born to it. They usurped the power. Because also, and you give everyone a voice." By doing this, by giving everyone a voice, you have given no one a voice because no one can hear anyone else over the clamor. In trying to appease everyone, you offend everyone. That's how the Arthurians view democracy.
Yeah, it's interesting how like democracy is supposed to like elect the will of the people, like the person who like believes the thing that the most people believe and is the most competent, but really it just elects like, well, I mean, it doesn't always do that because demagoguery exists, right? Because someone can come out and sell a bill of goods, and like they'll convince enough people, oh, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, sign me up. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like it's basically these. Like basically, I think the Arthurians see these guys. They would later on in the series, they're going to see like this guy going on an election campaign, and they can see that he's basically just pandering to these people, like just basically buttering up, like vote for me, let me have all the power. And the Arthurians are just like, what a prostitute this creature is. He's so desperate for power that he's lowering himself to the basis of the base. How dare he? He will not make a good leader. Yeah, you have to understand the Arthurians. They are an absolute monarchy, and they kind of view anything else like it doesn't work. Like our system of government has worked for literally thousands upon thousands of years. Granted, we are an immortal race, so.
Is this a little bit of your own beliefs coming through? Do you think such a system would be appropriate in the modern world?
Well, let me put it this way: with the line of succession, you know who the next king's going to be. You would watch the next king or queen grow up. For example, we watched Prince Charles grow up, and we know who king he's going to be, aka not a very good one, in my opinion. Poor Charles is never going to be king at this point if his mother keeps living. Long live the queen. Whereas with the democracy, the Arthurians would think you have no idea who these people are before they go on these before they start begging for votes, and you have no idea what type of person they are. So what they think, well, with the king, you know where they're coming from, you have more or less idea where they're going to. Whereas with democracy, you don't know what you're going to get. It's like looking for landmines almost, with like it could blow up in your face.
I would say that my own country has kind of a fetish with democracy, and maybe that's the entire West. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I think your lot practically deified it. Like democracy is the be all and end all of all governmental systems. And
by no means am I saying that's the end of history, but I think there's a lot of people in our country who would say it's the end of history, that's the perfect system. And
well, that's what the Romans thought when they started the empire, and look what happened to them.
Indeed, yeah. Yeah, well, let me see. Okay, last thing to cover actually for this particular one. There was a segment with and I think it was in book 3. There was a segment describing a goblin queen.
Oh, Grog.
And this also dovetails with the rat men in book 2.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just you know, this isn't even necessarily a question, just a topic that all these things kind of dovetailed in my mind, just like beauty standards and like race standards. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we reconcile the idea of like a race that's like uniformly bad? Because I know that Tolkien, for instance, very much regretted making the orcs like uniformly bad. He felt that, you know, ran counter to his Catholicism, how there was no redemption for orcs ever. So I don't know how, like, what are your thoughts on like making a race quote unquote evil or quote unquote good or whatever?
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess Tolkien kind of made his orcs basically soulless monsters, and it basically, this is kind of bleeds into my belief. Like, if something doesn't have a soul, it's basically it's not capable of doing good.
I see.
Whereas, like, I mean, how do I describe this? Like, the Rat Men, they're not a race. They're not like you and me. They're not like the elves and the dwarves and the dragons and the Arthurians. Like they're like who were created with souls. No, they were just animals who by fell magic or by some other means learned how to walk upright and talk. Whereas the goblins, who knows? I might not have. There might be some goblins, some good goblins later on down the story. There might not be. There might be some. There's definitely going to be some evil ones, because goblins, you can't exactly have goblins on screen and not have them be ugly and monstrous.
No, it's a fantasy story. Of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I just kind of wrote them like just because it's a fantasy story and you got to have some evil races. But like I read the. I think you asked me if like inherently evil races. I don't know. I mean, I like to think that there's a possibility for redemption for everyone.
Sure.
Like, but there are some people. Well, they'll be offered redemption and they'll just slap the opportunity away because they don't know how to be anything else but evil. Like for example, like at the end, at the end of book 3, where the witches attack, and spoiler alert for everyone, one of the witches is killed. The witch Jessica is killed by the Arthurian princess Lisa by stabbing her through the back and then through the heart.
It's a great moment, by the way.
Yeah. But I described Lisa as being very mournful afterwards because she knew that what had happened to Jessica the moment she died. She had been sent to quote unquote the flames. She'd been sent to hell, and she regretted that because, well, I believe that there's only two roads to eternity. It's either hell in the flames, or paradise with God. So, and there's no middle ground. There's no purgatory. I'm quite Protestant in that. There's absolutely no middle ground. It's either or.
But by the way, it was interesting too that there's some hints that Jessica was kind of a tragic figure, right? Like, it was kind of. I think Myra says something to her like, "Well, were you offered a choice?" Something like that. And
the way that Jessica reacted, like,
yeah. So there's kind of like a hint at possible redemption there, but like it doesn't go that way, obviously.
Well, there's always the possibility of redemption. It's always it's always a question of will you accept or not.
Right. Yeah. No, it was interesting, and it got my noggin jogging. I'll say that much, as Medicare says. But my friend, we are pushing 2 hours. I'll say this: we don't see the world in exactly the same way, but I always freaking love talking to you, and I love picking your brain. And I'm really enjoying this book series, and I surely hope we can continue doing this.
Likewise, sir. Yeah, hopefully we won't have so much of a headache trying to set this thing up like we did today.
Well, now that we figured out Hangouts, I think we may be on the right track. But
yeah,
I guess since we're
quick question before we go. Can everyone see my face, or am I just another disembodied voice like last time?
Just another disembodied voice. We'll
Okay.
figure out the face. I think I can somehow put Hangouts directly into OBS. That's something that 15-year-olds know how to do, but I don't because I'm an idiot. So
Don't worry, you and I are in the same boat there.
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. Where we've hit close to the 2-hour mark. I'll hang up the call, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon, my friend. If you want to give a sign off, feel free.
All right, everyone. This has been the world-renowned historian talking with me, Harrison McArthur, Draco Pendragon, about my novel series that I'm currently writing about, the Draco Rex sagas. Until next time, everyone. This has been your host, Harrison McArthur, Draco Pendragon, and the world-renowned historian, signing off. Until next time, bye-bye.
Well said. Be good, kiddos. I am out.
To play probably one of my favorite songs to perform. Where they at? 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 Come on, I said if you wanna go and take a ride with me for 3 willing in the bowl with the goldies, so I live this way. Hey, it must be the money. If you wanna go and get high with me, smoke a L in the back of the Benzie, so I live this way. Hey, must be the money. Club in the late night, feeling right, trying to spot something real nice. For a little shorty, I know so that I can take her home. I can take her home. She could be 18 with an attitude, 19, kind of starting acting real rude. But as long as you ain't thinking, girl, you know that it's on. You know that it's on. I beat something on the dance floor, sexy and real slow. She was peeping in, I think the last video. So Nelly, can we go? How could I tell her no? I measurements from 36, 25, 34. I like the way you brush your hair, and I like those stylish clothes you wear, and I like the way the light hit the icy glare, and I can see you different way over there. Come on, if you wanna go and take a ride with me, 3 willing in the floor with the goldies, so I live this way. Hey, it must be the money. If you wanna go and get high with me and smoke an L in the back of the Benzie, so why do I live this way? Hey, it must be the money. Pay somebody front act, don't know how to act. Look in my eyes, what do you see? Cult of personality. Well, I know your anger, I know your dreams. Well, I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the cult of personality. Like Mussolini,